Hey, so Pete, I've not been in the office since Thursday. I've been on annual leave. Did I miss anything? Did I miss any big news?
Well, I mean, there might have been one or two minor stories that broke. You know, wrestling news has been it's just been plateauing a little bit lately.
Yeah.
So there's not much happened. Nothing major. Nothing, that would change the landscape of wrestling or anything like that.
No, nothing like Vince McMahon retiring. No, I happened to be off. I was off on both Wall Street Journal articles. Vince stepping down as CEO, and I was off on Vince retiring as well. I sure can pick him. But this was the first episode of Raw without Vince McMahon in charge. This is the first episode of Raw in the Triple H creative era. Now, I was a fan of wrestling back in the year 2000 when there was a little faction called the McMahon-Helmsley regime where Triple H and Stephanie were running the show. Turns out 22 years later, that's now just reality. Mad that. I'm Luke Owen, DAD, and I'm joined for the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Raw by Chopper Pete Quinnell. Please do give this video a thumbs up, please do. And subscribe if you haven't already. Get in your super chats, your ultra chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them above the $5. And I am really saying this now sincerely. Please do like this video because I thought that this was an interesting discussion point. I thought this would be an interesting topic of conversation. I thought the thumbnail kind of like backed that up a little bit to be like, because I've kind of been going around a lot and looking at people's reactions to this online. I put up a poll earlier, like after I'd watched the show, because I was trying to sort of gauge what the feeling of this was. And it's still like Fightful's review of it. And I thought, man, like, I think a lot of people were looking at this show to be like, what's the change? Like, what are the differences we're going to see now that it is no longer a Vince McMahon show and it is now a Triple H show? And the answer to those was not really a lot. But that also doesn't surprise me because, as I said in the edited review, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, these sort of like changes, they were never going to do like a big overnight change. They weren't just going to scrap the SummerSlam card and put a whole brand new thing in place. I don't think anyone was expecting that. But I have found it very interesting that people are looking for things. Like, what are the differences that we have found in here? So I thought that was a very interesting topic of conversation. Apparently YouTube thought different. Because before we went live, it was on like a 30% thumbs up, thumbs down ratio. And usually we try not to go below 95. Yeah. I went well below that 95 threshold.
Just slightly.
Every time we're only but it's 88. It's like, oh, we've clearly gone spicy with this take.
Like, I spoke to you earlier this week because one of our videos went to like 91, and I was like,
ooh, it's dicey.
Yeah, that's a bit much. Yeah.
Anyway. Well, I thought it was an interesting topic of conversation because I wanted to ask you, Pete, going into this episode of Raw, bearing in mind this is the first episode of the Triple H run creative, did you have any expectations going in?
I did. My expectations were very low, though. I expected the vast majority of things to be the same. I was not expecting a refresh, a rebrand. I wasn't expecting a Triple H promo for him to come out and be like, I'm in charge now, and this is the new era, or anything like that. I wasn't expecting any of that stuff, because I think that is unrealistic with SummerSlam this weekend. But what I was hoping to see from this show was, as me and Tempest speak about on our SmackDown reviews all the time, there's so many negative ones on this show. There's so many little things that detract away from WWE's product. And I was hoping to see less of those negative ones. An idea of like, this is the general direction of where the creative is going to go, or this is the sort of thing you can expect more of going down the line. Stuff that, like general like pacing of the show, placement of ad breaks, how matches were booked, things like that. Not necessarily changing the matches or the feuds or anything like that, but just like maybe people were a bit more free on promos. Maybe there was something to be like, oh, that's new and different. I haven't seen that in a little while. Just little things that make you go like, okay, there's some promise here. There's things that we can expect to see changed. And I'll be honest, I didn't see much of it on this show.
No, I had a similar thing. Like, I think in an idealized world, like you would have had that big like, this is the reset episode of WWE, and like this is where things get. And then like, it's not like WWE haven't done that in the past, in the middle of like pay-per-view builds and things like that, where they've just been like, oh, by the way, this is now what we're doing.
Yeah,
like look at the when they had the Saudi Arabia thing. They had their Survivor Series plans, then they couldn't get back. They were like, okay, well, now it's an NXT thing. Yeah. Now we're going to do an NXT invasion. You're just like panic booked. Here's an NXT invasion. It was like one of the most exciting episodes of SmackDown they've done in years.
So good.
I think of the You Are Now the Authority episode, where Vince and everyone came out and were just like, look, we're sorry that Baron Corbin is terrible at his job. but we're going to be making some changes around here, and here are the things that we're going to be changing. The antiquated automatic rematch and all of this. Or, do you remember that they're coming to WWE when they were just like, here are 10 NXT stars that we're bringing up.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, Aleister Black and Ricochet, and now just on the main roster.
Yeah.
And they're going to have showcase matches. That was a reset episode of Raw that was in the middle of a pay-per-view build.
Yeah.
It didn't like alter what that pay-per-view card was or like what your top matches in there were, but it was a sign of, this is a change. We have noticed that something is wrong, so we're going to make a change. And we're going to just actively tell you, the audience, here is a new start. And we didn't get that on this show at all. Like, you know, a few people have defended the show in somewhat by saying like, well, you know, the script was already written by the time Triple H was made head of creative. To that, I would say, lol, Raw scripts get rewritten while the show is on the air. So I don't think we can use that as an excuse.
To play devil's advocate on that point in particular...
You can play devil's avocado.
I will play devil's avocado on that one. Tearing up scripts and rewriting them last minute is a very Vince thing to do. So if Triple H wants to be different than that, don't tear up the scripts.
So the change is that Raw scripts are now set in stone.
Exactly. That's the change.
That's the change.
Exactly.
But it was really interesting listening to the Fightful post-show they did of this. You know, this, like, Sean and Denise review the show directly after Raw was finished. So there was a lot of like chats that were coming and being like, oh, was it just me? Or was the action more harder hitting? Oh, was it just me? Or did the crowd seem more, oh, was it just me? Or did it seem like promos were free? Oh, did it just mean there's less camera cuts? I think what people were watching this show looking for a thing to say, that's the difference. That's the change.
Yeah.
And I don't think many things on the show were different. I still think that the pacing is massively off. I think the side of wrestling, like it has always been, is really good because the in-ring stuff is never the issue with WWE. They always do generally have really good matches. It still had a litany of bad finishes. It had stale scripted promos. It had awkwardly staged backstage segments. In fact, really the only difference that I can point at and say that's new is the Mysterio family didn't watch the TV at an angle. That is really the only thing I can point to and say, that's different.
I will say there was a couple of things that felt different superficially, to say like this is different than what they've done in the last few weeks and months. But really, when you think about it, it's not that much of a change. This show opened with a brawl. That's new. That's different. The show opened and it went, oh, a brawl is starting. Which is different.
But if the argument is the script was already in place, that's a Vince decision, not a Triple H decision.
Precisely. And there's a very good reason why they did that. It's because they didn't want people to hear the crowd booing Logan Paul on his entrance.
Good job that worked.
Yeah, so they wanted to start with a brawl. People being like, hey, a brawl, cheering. See, we like Logan Paul.
But then they just brought him out later on in the show to get booed.
Which is, completely undoes the entire intention behind that segment. But that, when you look at it superficially, you go, that's different. But it isn't really. And you look at some other stuff on the show where it's like, you think that maybe the promos are better. It's like, that's different, but it isn't really.
Yeah, I get the argument of like, oh man, like Roman's promo felt like... But Roman's always had that interaction with the crowd because Roman's not a pre-programmed robot that has to adhere to what the crowd are chanting. It's like, ignore what the crowd are chanting unless it's the thing we want them to chant, in which case you can then acknowledge it. Roman's always, because he's just free-flowing, he can do whatever he wants. So Roman going out there and cutting a bit more of he barely cut a promo. Like he had a bit of a sparring thing with Austin Theory. But I would have expected Roman to do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think, what was the other bit in the show that I just thought of? It was, checking my notes.
Check your notes.
Of course, it was through the whole show. There was more wrestling on the show. More minutes were dedicated to wrestling, which is something that we have complained about quite a lot, in that there isn't enough wrestling on WWE programming. And there was something like 73 minutes of wrestling across this 3-hour show, which is more than normal. I still don't think it's probably enough over a 3-hour show to have an hour and 10 minutes. Maybe that's about right. But
it's interesting that there is that's like 20 more minutes
than usual.
Like in some cases that's 30 more minutes, because I think like Liam, who's like our the website head, said that there was like one episode of Raw recently that had 43 minutes of wrestling, and this had 73. That's half an hour's more wrestling.
Yeah.
And yet when I think back to the show, I can't really tell you where that was.
Yeah, I feel like the if there was going to be, I don't know if this was a change or not, but potentially one of the changes that Triple H could have done on this show is to just put more time into the wrestling and cut back on a few other bits. So none of the segments actually changed, but the time dedicated to those segments did change. Because the main event was nearly 20 minutes long. It was 19 minutes and something. And you had like 2 12-minute matches throughout the rest of the show as well, which is like, those are good length TV matches. Those are really good. And the main event being nearly 20 minutes, that's good. That's what a main event should be.
Absolutely.
Those are really good lengths. But
Totally a sex tape.
there you go. But I don't know if that added up to a significant enough change. That, like, don't get me wrong, that is a positive step.
Massive positive.
A big positive step, and I'm all for that. Big thumbs up that you have more wrestling on your show. But without kind of like the substance to back it up, because those matches were good. And that's fine. But you could have great matches, which you're not doing.
Yeah,
so I'm going to try and not nitpick too much, because I don't want to seem like I'm down on this change of having more wrestling, because that's a very good thing and something I've objectively been saying to do for ages. So that is definitely a positive change, and maybe that is the one thing that people can look at and go, that's the difference, that's the change that's coming, is there's going to be more wrestling.
Yeah, I think what we can, in a couple of months' time, I think is when we can really objectively look back on and see, like, you know, what changes have been made to this product. Because, like, I mean, as I said in my edited review of this show, Triple H has put on, you know, the best wrestling cards, you know, arguably of the last 10 or so years. He had the string of NXT takeovers. Those are, you know, Triple H wrestling cards, Triple H wrestling programs. That was just banger after banger after banger. Legit, all filler. No, all killer. No, sorry. That's a WWE show. All killer, no filler.
Yeah.
Like every single match. Like there's always like that one, because you go like, oh, I got one Baron Corbin match, or I was like, oh yeah, there's one boring match over here. There's like one EC3 match that's gonna like bring things down, right? But for the most part, it was just like, man, these were like the greatest wrestling cards that they've ever put on.
I think they're, at the very least, if they're not the best, they're the most consistently great.
Absolutely, yeah. And like somebody said in the comments was like, you know, Triple H couldn't have made change. I think this was in the edited review, so he can't make changes overnight. But like, look what he did with NXT. Like I'd push back on that, because like Triple H taking over creative of NXT was like 2013, but I would say the peak of NXT was 2015, 2016. So there was a lot of building work that he did to get to that point. And that's what he's going to be doing with Raw here, I think. That, like, none of this was ever going to be done overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. I think we're going to see pieces being put into place over the next few months. But I think crucially it's over the next years that we're really going to see the effect of a Triple H and Stephanie McMahon run WWE.
And especially as well, I can't remember who spoke of it. It might have been Meltzer, I think, speaking on a Wrestling Observer Radio or Wrestling Observer Live or something, that said another one of the reasons why we're not going to see immediate changes and why these changes are going to be kind of drip fed to us through the next months and years is because they don't want to panic the shareholders. Because if Vince McMahon is retiring, they want to let the shareholders know everything's fine, we've still got it under control, don't worry. Whereas if they come out and do, bang, here's this new refresh, here's this new thing, everyone's going to, wait, what's happening to my product? Vince McMahon is gone and now it's all terrible again, because the shareholders don't really know or care about what the product is. They can see that there's just a lot of change happening and, oh no, everything's crumbling because Vince McMahon is gone now and he was the main guy of the thing. So that was actually a planned move, was to not have too many drastic changes to appease some of the stockholders and the shareholders and stuff, to be like, everything's okay, we're still fine.
Exactly, you don't want to hit the hard reset.
Exactly, yeah.
The counterpoint to that is that I think that we're going to see a significant ratings bump from this episode. It's not going to do 4 million views. No. Like, it's not going to get, like, you know, numbers that you were getting 3 years ago. No. Like, I think that if it's a 1.8 show now, they may do over 2 million views for this episode. And I think that is off the back of the Vince retiring news. It was mainstream news. Yeah. The BBC here covered it. Not on TV, but on the website. So, like, I think there will be a significant enough interest that the lapsed fan, and I'm not talking about the lapsed fan of 20 years ago. No. I'm talking about the lapsed fan of 3-4 years ago that stopped watching the WWE product because there was something about it that turned them off, and they just did not like what was being presented anymore, and they just have moved away from wrestling and whatever. Maybe they were like, well, do you know what, maybe it was just Vince, like, I'll go and I'll try, and maybe this will be the thing, and I'll watch an episode, and like, this will be the thing that gets me back into wrestling, and I'll start watching on a weekly basis. What they saw here was just the exact same thing that made them turn off in the first place.
100%.
So there's no, like, you had an opportunity here. I'm not saying you had to take this opportunity, but you did have the opportunity to show something that there is a change. And like, you mentioned the shareholders thing, like it's a panic thing of don't make too many changes. You just have to do one.
Yeah, exactly.
That is bigger than the Mysterios watching a TV normally.
Yes.
Like doing like, hey, I'm spitballing ideas, an NXT call-up. Or like, splitting Tommaso Ciampa from The Miz and making Tommaso Ciampa again. Just showing something that is like, here is something we're going to be doing. Here is a new star that we're going to be pushing.
Yeah.
Post SummerSlam, here's someone we're going to be putting some focus on. But this was an episode of Raw that was exactly the same as every episode of Raw in 2022.
Yeah.
Production or else. So I do have that concern. And I really hope that people do give the show a chance. And as I said, like I don't think we're going to be getting major noticeable differences for another couple of years yet. But I hope that people do stick around because I think that Triple H and Stephanie can right the ship. I really do think they can put on a great weekly wrestling TV show because I've seen Triple H do it in the past with a lot less money. So I really do have the faith that they can. But I think that they had an opportunity here, which they should have taken, which was to have done that one thing that really could have put, this is my stamp on the creative process.
Yeah, which I think might still be coming, but you only get one chance at first impressions, right? If people are going to come back for this week's episode, they might have already not tuned in to next week's, I
had people message me on Twitter. I mean, you can only take that with a grain of salt, but people said, like, I watched this because I was curious to see. It's the same show. I'm not watching again next week.
Yeah.
Like, grain of salt, sure. Like, it's just Twitter and whatever. They probably have been watching for the last few weeks, and they probably will watch next week anyway and just say they're not watching. But there is, there's anecdotal evidence that could have happened. Like, I saw Steve from Going In Raw was live tweeting the show. Steve doesn't watch Raw live because it gives him a headache.
Yeah. But this was the same. So we might not do it again next week.
He might not do it again next week. Maybe he'll be the one that waits to see when the changes actually come in and see what differences are actually done.
Speaking of done,
Kevin
Dunn,
that
I think will be one of the most understated but most important changes that they can make to this product.
Could not agree more.
Like, just once Kevin Dunn is gone, and I think at this point it's more of a when than an if.
Because he's not a Triple H guy.
He's not a Triple H guy. Apparently him and Stephanie McMahon don't get along.
Nope.
I feel like it's a matter of time before Kevin Dunn goes, but once he does, it will improve the product so much.
Just
I can't put into words how much it's going to improve.
Because that was the other thing I saw, people like, oh man, was it just me or was there less like camera crash than it seems like? No, that was the exact same amount because it makes me nauseous every time I watch the show, like particularly during that Miz Logan Paul segment, which by the way, woof, what a miss that was. But yeah,
that was
very, very good. So Pete, I mean, like some closing thoughts before we get into everyone else's thoughts on this about sort of like the first impression that we could have had or that we did get.
Yeah, I think this was a slightly less than what I expected, but what I expected and what I wanted were two different things. I think what I expected was a bit of change, an indication, like you said, like an NXT call-up or a name change or something to be like, don't worry, guys. Triple H, like, winking to the hardcore fans to be like, hey, don't worry, guys. I got this. Just give me a bit, and I'll rectify the wrongs. And
also, I don't think that's to say, because I think people may jump on this. NXT call-ups are not just an answer.
No, of course not.
It's a spitballing idea of a suggestion that could be done.
Even like, even if you want to do something as drastic as a Triple H promo, for him to come out and be on screen and be like, hey guys, thank you so much for all the support. In case you guys haven't seen the news, I'm going to be head of creative now. We've got an amazing SummerSlam coming this weekend. And, in the weeks and months coming, we're going to have some great stuff coming soon. That's all you need to say, but it's just a little thing to be like, okay, Triple H is here, and something will be different.
Yeah.
I don't know what yet, but I'm excited to see what it's going to be. I think that would have given at least a little bit of a hint as to what's to come.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that this was... I wasn't expecting... Yeah, I think Tempest said on the SmackDown review, who was just like, a new logo, a new set, new bumper, new graphics, and they're like, in a great ideal world, yeah, because that is like a proper hard reset of just like, this is a new era of this company.
Yeah.
But that was... And Tempest even said, that's never going to happen. No. And I think people going into expecting that were going to be disappointed.
Absolutely.
I just think that there was a real chance here for Triple H and Stephanie and Nick Khan to put their foot forward and be like, and this is what the difference is with our version of WWE compared to what Vince's version of it is. Because I remember, like, this is way, way, way back in the day when Ollie and I first started doing these podcasts. when NXT was really at its peak, and it was like, the height of Gargano Ciampa and all that sort of stuff, DIY and like the Revival having banging matches and this and the other, right? And people would message in and be like, I really wish Triple H would take over the creative of Raw and SmackDown and Vince would just step down, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we used to get these messages a lot.
Yeah,
and me and Ollie used to make the argument of just like, yeah, I mean, you can ask for that, but like, at the end of the day, he's also a WWE guy, and WWE has a style.
Yeah.
And WWE has certain sponsors that it needs to appeal to. It has certain TV standards that it likes to appeal to. It has a certain audience. It has a much younger audience that they want to appeal to. So, if Triple H took over creative, it's not just going to be NXT, but with a bigger budget.
Of course.
But I think there was an opportunity here for Triple H to be like, all right, guys, this is where we're heading. And from what I can gather, where we're heading is the same as where we were going.
Yeah, and I'm still going to hold out hope.
Same here.
That either at SummerSlam there'll be a hint of something, or maybe on the Raw after SummerSlam there'll be a hint of something to come. But as of right now, there isn't much.
Yeah. I'm also really excited, when we'll get into your Ultrachats in just a second, I'm really excited for... There's a whole litany of people that were either fired by WWE or let their contracts expire that were Triple H guys that have not signed elsewhere. And now that Triple H is in charge of creative, the daddy NXT, that there's the option of like, well, I didn't want to stay in the company when Vince was running it because I've seen what Vince is like. But if Triple H is running it, maybe I could go back now. Like, I'd love to see a Bray Wyatt go back, a Gargano to go back, Candice LeRae to go back. Like, there is a litany of names that were released by this company that now have an open door, essentially, to go back. And
not forbidden anymore.
Not forbidden anymore. Also, like, Triple H had Jushin Thunder Liger on an episode of NXT.
Yeah.
Like, for an NXT takeover. He wanted to do work with other companies. There's every chance that down the lines, there are more open... Like, we may not have WWE with its high-rised walls anymore. We may see those crumble down and be more open to super shows or things like that.
Exactly, yeah. If you're curious about some of those release names that WWE could rehire, maybe you should keep an eye out for a video in list format that might be going up on the WrestleTalk channel at some point. I don't know, later this week, start of next week. I don't know when yet. It takes time to edit things. But I'm writing a script for that literally today. So, yeah. Keep an eye out for that one. And also, there's so much to talk about on this subject, but very, very quickly, I will just say that Triple H has always been the wrestler's guy. People have always spoken, all the wrestlers have always been very, very highly praising of Triple H and his connection with people.
Oh, absolutely.
Triple H has always been the guy. Like, when Samoa Joe got fired, Triple H was the guy to get him back. Triple H was the main factor of why they could smooth over stuff with, like, Bruno Sammartino. Triple H has always been the guy to connect with the wrestlers and the talent. That is going to be so crucial in getting people back into the company and getting people on board with his creative vision. Like, that's just... He's the perfect guy for what he's doing right now.
It's a very, very exciting time.
Yeah.
Really, really is. Let's get into your Ultrachats on this subject. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your thoughts and opinions heard. We'll read out every single one of them above the $5 US. Going to do a quick check of what our like to dislike ratio is.
Gonna be spicy.
Let's see. How's our chat ease things off? It's 90.1%. So
we're back in the 90s.
We're back in the 90s, everyone. I'll take that. Thank you so much. Matt Hennessy kicks us off to say, I like to think when Triple H found out he'd be head of creative, he went into his office, closed the door, picked up a framed picture of Johnny Gargano and said, do it for him. I'd even be that Wolverine.
I was going to say exactly like the Wolverine picture.
He continues, I did notice some differences on Raw. Talent seems to have more direction, like Bliss making her claim to the title after SummerSlam. Also noticed how certain talents were featured on Raw heavily by VKM, like Amos, weren't on the show. I do see a change.
That's fair.
But again, if the argument is that not enough could change because the script was written, then Amos wasn't booked for this show anyway.
Yeah.
And Alexa Bliss was always going to be going for the title anyway.
Yeah.
Charles Berg said, while it was by no means a great show, I saw two things that give me hope for the future. The show started with a frantic, chaotic fight that immediately grabs your attention. The match times also seem to increase, which is good for a wrestling show. Matt once again says, I think once the current stories wrap up by SummerSlam come next week, a lot of talents who were pushed in NXT but misused by VKM will be pushed like Ciampa and Ricochet. SRS said a lot of people VKM was pushing will drop down the card. Theory was the example he used. Because he was a Vince project.
He was also a Triple H project, though.
In NXT.
In NXT, he was. Like, Triple H doesn't dislike him. He might just take a more nuanced approach with him.
Not rush him into a Money in the Bank situation.
Rush him straight to the main event.
Well, we'll get into Theory when we get into the show itself. But, like, Theory was made to look like such a chump on this episode, which just made me think he was winning.
This episode? You don't mean for the past, like, 6 months?
But specifically this episode. He lost twice and then got laid out. And literally my first note was, like, he's winning the title this Sunday.
Yeah. 100%
like
right.
He was buried so much in the show. It's like he's for sure winning the title this Sunday.
Yeah.
But I now wonder if they're just going to get the Money in the Bank off of him. State of Mind has been a Memberg for 12 months in a row. Said thought Raw was okay. Can't expect a show to drastically change after 40 years. It is going to take some time though. Thought Don was going to turn heel. Oh, Dom. I think that's Dom.
Dom Mysterio. Not yet.
Liam Leonard been a Memberg for 12 months in a row. Hey guys, I'm sorry for work internet, but I'll say I'm excited for the future of WWE as you see sprinkles of Triple H magic and only time will show the results. Thank you, Liam, for your message. We tried to do our personal video call with Liam, but his internet had, not kidding you, a 10-second delay.
Which is really difficult to have a conversation with.
Vandalian 1998 said, last night when I was watching SRS's review, he said the plans for tonight were the same that he read about the night before, and I joked that's new. The plan's not changing at the last moment.
Genuinely, that's the change.
Rhea Dia, hey yo. My opinion, Bruce Pritchard will probably stick around. He's pretty flexible in his booking stance. That's because Bruce will just say yes to whoever he thinks will get him the job the longest. Kevin Dunn, I don't see him sticking around. That was my injection as opposed to
your opinion.
What Riot DR, Bruce Pritchard is literally the corporate yes man.
Yes.
Riot DR continues. Kevin Dunn, I don't see him around for much longer. I've heard no positive stories about him, and his production style is literally gives my wife's headaches. Mayor of Painesville said, hello, my dear Luke and Pete. Hope you're having a pleasant Tuesday. I wonder what loyal WWE fans think here. Do they want the change? Do they expect a change? Would they rather have no changes? Do they care? What would they change? I'd love to know.
That's genuinely a really interesting topic.
Such an interesting thing. Yeah, you know, I don't like to use this term. WWE stands, and I hate this one as well, E-drones. You know, those people on there that just... anything that AEW does is the absolute worst, and anything that WWE does is the absolute best. I mean, I guess if you're in that mindset, no matter what they do, you're just going to think it's the best anyway. So you think the changes are brilliant, regardless of whether you actually agree with them or not. But absolutely. I would be so curious though. A Louis Dangoor is a great example of this. I would love to know what a Louis Dangoor would think of the changes, or what he would like to see as a change to this product.
You just call Louis Dangoor an E-drone.
I mean, you know, if the boot fits, but like, I'm not saying he's an E-drone or anything, but like for me, he is a WWE fan.
Very much so, he is.
He is quite upfront and honest, a WWE fan.
Yes.
So I'd be so curious to know like what his thoughts and wants are, or like, you know, what changes, what does he like about the current product that he would like to see continue?
Yeah.
Now we're in Triple H's version of this.
This is something I briefly mentioned on my video essay I did of the will the TV14 rating fix WWE Raw, and I said I thought it's really interesting that on both sides of the argument, whether they want TV14 or not, people seem to agree that WWE needs fixing. It's like either TV14 is like, this is a thing that we need, it's going to be the glory days. Or you go, well, this isn't the thing we need, but we need something. It's like, so what? So everyone agrees that it needs fixing? Like, what's going on?
Nothing here is good, but we just don't know what to do.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
Ten Ruzza, I give it a month for changes to start to take shape, but I'll feel better once Bruce Pritchard is out altogether and someone else fills that spot. Also, did WrestleTalk hire Nick Khan? All these popular talents that he sat SP3 Future Endeavored? No.
Not Future Endeavored.
Not Future Endeavored. In fact, some are getting promotions.
Yes.
Enrique Jr. haven't watched Raw or SmackDown consistently since WrestleMania 34. Now that Triple H is in charge, I'm genuinely excited for the future. That, I think, is actually something we can all... I mean, I can't say all, but for me personally, I could take away from. So the most I've been excited to, watching Raw this morning was genuinely the first time I'm like...
I'm curious.
I'm curious. And even last week, I said to Sullivan in the review, I'm really looking forward to next week's show because I know something will happen. Because it's the go-home show for SummerSlam. And also, it's in Madison Square Garden. So they're going to try something next week.
That something was Roman Reigns is having a match.
And he cut a promo.
Sure.
There was possibly supposed to be an Edge return, but, you know.
Yeah.
Aaron Smith, considering Vince's retirement happened a week before one of their biggest pay-per-views, I didn't expect there to be any massive change in direction. I think more accurately hope that we'll start to see changes from next week, fingers crossed.
I agree.
I honestly think we should even pump the brakes on that. I don't think, like, hey, I hope that the night after SummerSlam or the day after SummerSlam, we get a big, like, that's the reset episode. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm holding back my I'm holding back my hope that could happen.
Yeah.
Eternal Blue's been in Memberg for 14 months in a row. Said, Luke keeps saying Rome wasn't built in a day. No, they weren't. But they were also around destroying other cultures and replaced it with their own. So...
Eyes emoji.
Militant's Mark Magnus been in Memberg for 14 months in a row. There was a change. Jimmy Smith said belts. He said 3 men, 6 belts.
There you go.
Well, yeah, Cody Rhodes also said belts.
I was going to say,
and
the Cody Rhodes effect.
And he got fined $1,000 every time he said it.
Sure.
Maybe Jimmy Smith's just like, I've got $1,000 to spend. Matt, I was curious about the changes this week, but my true expectations of any sort of change is that the first Raw after SummerSlam. And lastly for now, Zareth has been a member for 12 months in a row. As someone who went to an AEW because WWE let me down so much, I'm excited for this new era. Hearing that Triple H will be more available than Vince is always good.
I agree.
Also, I've opened the wrong thing. Where are my notes? He got him. Right. This episode of Raw kicked off with, a brawl. Like they kind of said, like, here's what happened before the show started. It was a brawl between...
It was immediately. It wasn't a recap. This was like, we're on air and they're brawling. Oh my God.
Well, that's what I thought it was. But then they were showing the replay and then Roman came in. I was like, I thought they were brawling.
Yeah, no, they brawled and then they showed a replay of immediately what just happened. And then Roman came out.
That's good because people told me there were less recaps on this show. So it's good to know that I wasn't like, I could have sworn there was about as many recaps as I remember.
In all fairness, that's still probably less. God, they had so many.
But the show actually opened with Roman Reigns, an actual star, coming out with the Bloodline in tow. And like, this is really like indicative of how like WWE have done such a good job of protecting Roman and making sure that he feels like the valuable player. He just, I know his teacher's like Goddle mode, but like he is just on a different level because he's the only person not named Brock Lesnar or Logan Paul who's presented as an actual star on this show. So when he came out, this crowd were in awe of this man. And it really did feel like a genuinely like, oh, we're finally getting to see Roman. This is a great deal. Yeah. I mean, nothing new happened.
No, exactly. It was exactly the same. And I think there was a lot of people in this MSG crowd as well. I think they said it was a legitimate sellout for MSG.
Yeah, I heard so,
cool. That's good. The crowd were very hot for the night. Cool.
Yeah.
It's Roman.
They were into it. And they made some references to Vince being gone. Austin Theory came out after Paul Heyman cut the standard promo that he usually gets.
I really enjoyed it. In Paul Heyman's promo, he said, Roman doesn't have anything to say today because he can't stand the name of Brock Lesnar. That's why I've just said Brock Lesnar's name 25 times in my promo, because he gets to say Brock Lesnar every time.
Cannot wait for this feud to be over.
Same.
Austin Theory came out to cut the same Austin Theory promo he's been cutting since he won Money in the Bank. They had a line about Roman Reigns said, hey, your dad isn't here anymore, because he was Vince McMahon's boy. And the crowd burst into who's your daddy chant, which apparently is an NYC thing. Sure. But it stems from baseball or something or other, touchdowns. And then they leave because they're like, we think you're fine. Like, we're not that bothered. So they leave and Jay or Jimmy bumps Austin Theory with one of the tag belts. So Theory hits him with the briefcase, which is supposed to be like this big weapon, but Jay was like, what are you doing?
Excuse me?
Bit rude. And then he went to go in a fight, and Roman Reigns pulled him back. It was like a lot. It was like every Roman Reigns segment I've seen since he started doing the Tribal Chief and he won both belts.
Just me, or did Theory come off as a babyface here? Like, the promo, very heelish. But that action of him getting in the ring, after Roman was like, you're going to come in the ring? And he goes, all right. And he gets in the ring with a load of people outnumbering him. And then someone bumps him on the way past and goes, no, I'm not going to stand for that. Bang. And he hits him back. Like, that's a good, fiery babyface thing to do. He's a heel.
Oh, well, I hope they follow that up with the next segment. Because, hey, guys, the pacing was much better on the show. We went to an ad break. And then Theory got introduced to cut another promo. It's more of that great flowing pace that people told me was really good on this show. And Drew McIntyre interrupted him early, before he even got a chance to say anything. And the commentators were like, "Whoa, Drew McIntyre is here! He's here for his scheduled match." I'm like, then why are you surprised? If you knew the match was coming next, why are you surprised he came out?
They did it twice on this show, where people interrupted a segment and goes, "They're here for their scheduled match." It's like, I think they really tried to hammer home that, like, these matches are scheduled. We're not just going to have impromptu matches. These are all scheduled matches, guys. But it just goes against what was written in the segment.
Yeah, so I guess they're having a match. They did. And guess what, guys? It was a lame DQ finish to set up a tag team match. Yeah. Rubbish. Awful. I can't stand it. It's lame DQ finishes, lazy DQ finishes are like my biggest pet peeve in wrestling.
Yeah.
And this was like the first time when I was like, well, maybe we're not going to see some drastic changes on this show. Maybe
it's the same show.
Yeah. And then in the tag team match, it was Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus and Austin Theory. Austin Theory tapped out to Bobby Lashley, the guy he's facing this Saturday for the United States Championship. And I was like, yep, this is the exact same company. And this is very much a Vinceism of just like, well, just keep beating on the Money in the Bank guy.
Mm-hmm. And also, for the SmackDown feud of Drew and Sheamus, they've purposely been keeping Sheamus and Drew apart for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the story has been that Sheamus has been ducking Drew. And he's been purposely avoiding wrestling him. And the payoff to that is a tag match that gets made in an ad break on Raw. Like,
are they actually going to have their match on this Friday?
Probably not.
I was going to, because I'd wager it gets added to SummerSlam.
Yeah. That's what I want them to do, because that would probably be a really good match. They have good matches when they wrestle.
Number one contendership match on a pay-per-view for the next pay-per-view.
Great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
But also then you can look back at the last 4 weeks of SmackDown and be like, well, that was a redundant waste of time.
God, yeah.
So yeah, I this first hour of the show felt like it was the Austin Theory show. He was like, it was like 50 or so minutes that was like all Austin Theory. And at the end of this, he gets super kicked by the Usos on the ramp. And I was like, yeah, he was in the first 50 minutes, but he lost twice. Got embarrassed by the champion who thinks he's beneath him. And then he got laid out by the tag team champions who do nothing but lose unless it's a title match.
Yeah.
He got absolutely chumpatized.
He sure did.
On this show. And I was like, dude is winning this Sunday.
Yeah.
Dude is cashing in the Saturn and he's going to be the Universal Champion.
Because it's more shocking. Because he was losing a lot.
The guy has not won a singles match since Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
He has been beaten like a drum since he won Money in the Bank.
And the last time he won a singles match on TV, I think, was February? April?
Oh, really?
Something like that. On TV, not on pay-per-view.
Oh, okay. I mean, it makes sense because I feel like he kept getting beaten in like United States Championship stuff to set up his United States Championship matches.
It's a long time since man has won a match. And good God, please. And the thing is, technically, I think he won a match by DQ on this show.
No, he lost this match because they attacked Drew, which means that Drew won by DQ.
Drew won by DQ, and then the next one he tapped out. That's correct.
So he lost both of his matches.
He lost both his matches, and he lost on the last two episodes of SmackDown via DQ via Money in the Bank briefcase as well.
Yeah.
So.
And he's lost on Raw like a lot. Like he's done, like he's won Money in the Bank because it's a multi-person match, but like as singles, last time I think of is Money in the Bank. Oh, sorry, it's Hell in a Cell when he defended the US title against Ali.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, have him win. It's not hard. Have him beat Madcap Moss. It's all right.
We then got some big Rey Mysterio stuff. Him and his family arrived. They got a video package for him. Then they arrived. The family did it in a car. We then got an Edge video promo that was all focused on the Rey stuff, which kind of sets up an Edge return possibly for SummerSlam. We then got Ziggler walking backstage, and they set up a tag match with him and AJ Styles versus Alpha Academy. Then we got the Rey Mysterio 20th anniversary celebrations, where I popped for him shouting out Dean Malenko and Conan. I was like, that's great. I very much appreciated that.
This was a nice, heartfelt promo, I thought. This was good.
It was. It's what you want from a 20th anniversary thing. It's what we got with Randy. It's what we got with Cena. Just them coming out and being like, you know what, guys? Thanks. I know I disappeared for 5 years, and I left because you booed me because I wasn't Daniel Bryan. But hey, do you know what? I have been here for 20 years.
It's also so confusing because they had on this show, 20 years he's been here. Just ignore all the WCW stuff.
Yeah,
that doesn't count.
It's like I had my first wrestling match when I was 14 years old. I was like, oh, so it is longer than 20 years then.
Yeah. So it's 20 years in the WWE. Also, don't think about any of the WCW stuff. But later on when you get a gift, it's going to be referencing a WCW match that we didn't acknowledge earlier in the video package. cool.
Yeah. It's 20 years in WWE, bar the period of time when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Then the Mysterios took on the Judgment Day. This was again like the Judgment Day showed up and the commenters were like, whoa, the Judgment Day are here for their scheduled match that they're about to have.
I also love that Finn Balor and Damian Priest were on like opposite corners of the ring on the outside, and the commentator's like, they've got the ring surrounded. It's like, there's 2 of them!
Yeah, but they used to do that with the Shield.
Yeah,
the Shield are surrounded the ring. It's like, there's 4 sides to it, you doofus. Can't get out that 4th side, I guess. It was a perfectly fine match.
That's fun.
They built to a Dom hot tag, got the ad break, built to a Ray hot tag, and then Balor got a near fall off a coup de grace, but Dom broke that up. They tried to do the Eddie trick, but it didn't work because Balor got up too quickly, and then they nearly did the Eddie trick, but in the end, they just hit double 619 for the win. That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Judgment Day still suck.
Oh, yeah, massively.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes won an ESPY. Did you know?
I didn't put any of this into my review. It was enough to talk about.
Yeah.
But I do want to highlight this here. If you don't know what the ESPYs are, the ESPYs are a legit sports award. Apart from the WWE bit, who essentially pay to have themselves featured as part of the ESPYs, and they also get to pick who wins the ESPY. And then they go on Raw being like, Cody Rhodes won an ESPY. Like, yeah, that you gave him.
You gave him a Slammy Award. That is it.
It's the... I want this to change. Like...
Come on, Trips.
Like, come on, Trips. Like, screw ditching the Saudi Arabia deal. This is what needs to get rid of, because this is embarrassing nonsense. This is legit, like, cringingly embarrassing.
It's bad, isn't it?
It makes my skin crawl, because I'm like, oh, it's so lame.
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, I'm glad. And then, like, Cody's there being like, I'm so proud to win this. And, like, rest of the tag team being like, doing a great job, bud. Like, you keep, like, he didn't do anything. Like, he showed up for work, and then work said, great, here's an award. Oh, good Lord.
I really like this next segment, the backstage segment of everyone celebrating Rey Mysterio. All his family and stuff are backstage, friends and family backstage who are watching the TV normally, as you mentioned. But then after their match, they were all celebrating and chanting Rey's name before he was there. And then he walked in and they continued and they did champagne and all that stuff. And then he said, "Oh, you got a gift for me?" And I think it was his daughter gave him a gift, and he opens it up, and it's his own ring attire.
Well, they were saying because it was his Halloween Havoc 98 thing, and he was like, "Oh, I thought we'd lost this." I'm like, "Wait, there's no way you've nearly lost this."
Yeah. This is someone who has taken his ring attire, made him think he's lost it, and given it back. What a great gift!
Happy 20 years.
Where'd you find this? Oh, I had to dig deep for it. It's his! You haven't given him anything!
In the back of the closet. That's how much it meant to him. Against Eddie Guerrero, you know, it's how much he really treasured that outfit. But then we got the return of Rhea Ripley.
She's back.
She's back, and Aaliyah stepped up in front of her. Maybe Aaliyah's the big change. Like, Aaliyah's back on TV again.
Buddy Matthews.
Well, I mean, it's 2 ex-girlfriends, basically, in this segment. And then they attacked Rey and they put him through a table. It was one of 2 backstage attacks that they did on him in this show. Mm-hmm. But, you know, let's talk about some more of that great pacing that the show has now. Because Bianca Belair walked backstage. Then we had an ad break. Then we had a promo for SummerSlam. Then we had a promo for Hardy's Chicken. Then we had that Rey and family celebration thing. Then we had Bianca Belair coming for a promo, which went straight into an advert for Hardy's Chicken and a promo for SummerSlam.
Oh. We also had a recap of Becky Lynch, Bianca Carmella as well in there.
Yep. I mean, guys, there you go. Like, Triple H has made the changes. Is it just me? Or did the pacing feel better on this episode of Raw?
Oh, God, we're being so facetious.
I'm being facetious, but, you know, like...
It's very funny.
It is. It's always noticeable. But this segment was, like, the simple, effective build for SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
Because Belair was going to cut a promo, Becky came out, and the two just could not even talk to each other, trying to talk over each other and stuff. And they just got into a brawl, separated by referees. It is the most 101 thing to do for your final go-home show. But hey, it works.
The brawl was good as well.
It's a good brawl.
It wasn't just like, punch, 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 I'm going to throw you into the turnbuckle kind of thing. Like, no, they were like going at it. They had fiery offense, throwing each other into the commentary table and stuff like that. You felt like they wanted to fight. And that made it feel legit, and it was great.
Apparently, just correct me. Apparently, Rhea and Buddy are still together, so...
Yes. That's what I heard. I couldn't be bothered.
I
was like, yeah, good joke, whatever.
Yeah. I've absolutely no blues clue.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were dating until today because Buddy Matthews put it up on Twitter. Or they had been at some point. We then got Sarah Schreiber interviewing Alexa Bliss ahead of her match against Doudrop, and she cut a promo saying, like, yeah, I'm going to beat up Doudrop now, and then, hey, Becky, Bianca, whichever one of you wins, come for that title. Good. Finally, a bit of direction for Alexa Bliss.
Cool.
Then she made her entrance. Then we got an ad break. Then Rhea Ripley attacked Rhea again. And then we got Alexa Bliss versus Doudrop.
Yeah.
I credit to the commentary team in this match because they went out of their way to make Doudrop feel like a credible threat against Alexa Bliss.
I think what you mean is the commentary team lied.
They're like, oh, she's the wrecking ball of the women's division. And I'm like, she hasn't won a match on TV since the 7th of February. WrestleMania's been and gone, and they're like, what a wrecking ball she is, getting pinned on TV week after week.
The most dangerous woman in the women's division right now.
Nikki pushes Alexa Bliss off the top rope. It had no effect, and Bliss just DDT'd Doudrop and won.
There you go.
Weird.
Cool.
AJ Styles begged the audience to like Logan Paul.
They didn't.
It did not work because Logan Paul came out and like this company, hell bent on making you think that Logan Paul's the babyface because he's got a bajillion followers on Twitter or whatever. You know, people love him on the TikTok, and he comes out and they're like, well, if they love him, do you know who they also like? His brother. So he comes out then, he's like, hey, my brother's fighting here next week. Boo! Already massively booing him anyway. And he's like, hey, I've also got a brother that no one likes. Boo that. And he's like, and here is my talk show segment. The crowd were like, oh, God, no. Not another talk. Boo you. Go away. Or at the very least, be a heel.
Yeah. Impulsive TV.
Is that what it was called? I just called it Impulsive TV.
It's bad.
Hate that.
He is...
To quote my favourite WrestleTalk presenter.
He is such a knob.
He's so unlikable.
Like, when he comes out, and I think he was supposed to be endearing with his smile. He's smiling to the crowd. But I was like, he looks like a dick. He's smiling. He's sneering. He can't smile properly.
Dude, when he was cutting his babyface promo on The Miz, I was like, why does The Miz feel like the babyface in this scenario? Because you are coming across as the most natural of heels.
Speaking of bad promos... Why is this feud about the Miz's balls?
Because it's a thing now.
I haven't had a chance to talk about this.
No, you haven't.
What are they playing at? It is the worst. It is the most childish, like, nonsensical shit. Sorry. Them just being like, you have tiny testicles. And Miz goes, no, I don't. I have big balls. And then Maurice comes out and goes, his balls are very big. He measures them. And then Logan's like, who measures balls? And then Miz comes out and goes, I do. It's like, what is this feud? What are you talking about? There's no substance to any of this.
This should have been the change. This should have been Triple H's big opportunity to put his fingerprint on.
They changed it! They had a brawl at the start of the show! Just don't have this!
This segment.
This ruined it!
This segment did undo all of the good that the brawl did at the start of the show.
God.
Because the crowd were just like, we all just heard him boo Logan Paul.
Yeah.
And then he cuts this bad babyface promo. I'm like, you're such a heel. Like, he came to the ring at WrestleMania wearing a Pokemon card that no one else could afford. That's a dick move.
It's such a good dick move as well.
Great dick move.
Yeah.
And he'll do that at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
As a babyface, be like, look how cool I am with my Pokemon card that you can't afford. No, you're a knob.
Yeah.
And like, it's Chris Scully, a fabulous video game writer, when Logan Paul signed, put up the tweet being like, this is a great move for WWE because they are they're in real bad need of heels that crowds genuinely hate because they don't have a lot of them. And this is a heel that they could really, really hate. And the message back being like, you're right, but they're pushing him as a babyface at the moment. And Chris Scullion could not fathom that idea.
Yeah.
He was just like, that's an insane idea.
Yeah.
Because
really
no one in their right mind would cheer this man.
And the thing is, he worked so well going into WrestleMania.
So good as a heel.
As a heel.
So
it was
good
perfect.
as a heel.
And even stuff from like the previous year when he got stunned by Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
That's a great use for him.
Great.
That's fine.
Anyway,
man.
like you said, Miz and Maurice came out. Maurice even had a handbag that was shaped like balls. And Miz cut the same promo. He was like, I'm a 2-time Grand Slam champion. I made it. Me and Tempest, like, on the WrestleTalk Extra episode that goes out tomorrow, we talk about the Miz on there, essentially comparing him to Disco Inferno and Eric Bischoff. And like,
what a comparison.
So you know how like people get like, oh, Miz had a really great 2016, and so it was like, yeah. What people forget is it was just 3 weeks. It was one good promo on Talking Smack and one good match with Dolph Ziggler, and that's it. Oh, great 2016. There was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But hey, it's all his promos been based on since then.
Yeah, God.
And then Ciampa attacked Paul, 1,001 camera cuts and this and the other. Skull Crusher finale, and the Miz stood tall, and the crowd, because they're so behind Logan Paul as a babyface, chanted one more time because they wanted the Miz to keep beating this guy up.
Also, the only time it should be all about your balls is when we're talking about Manscaped.
Awkwardly stage segment here where Kevin interviewed the Street Profits and the Usos, and Jeff Jarrett had to step in. There was not enough room for all 6, including Kevin, to stand there, so Kevin just left.
Yeah.
And Jeff Jarrett, I don't really know what was here to do, just being like, hey man, just...
That's your Jeff Hardy impression. The different Jeff.
Sorry, you're absolutely right. My mistake. I got my Jeffs mixed up. Basically just say, look, keep the peace. And I've written here, Jarrett asked them to keep the peace, and they obliged because I guess you don't mess with the King of the Mountain. I don't know what this segment was. It was just a way to get Jeff Jarrett on the show and remind you all that he's the referee this Saturday.
Yes, but why is he?
It's Nashville.
Why is he the referee?
Because he ain't dead. He is Jeff.
God.
We then got AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler taking on the Alpha Academy. There was someone in the crowd that said, when is the Disco Inferno versus Dude Love Dream match going to happen? And I was like, buddy, that ain't no dream match of mine. The less Disco Inferno, the better. He does some local sports team stuff, and then the good guys win, I guess. Yeah, AJ and Dolph won.
Ziggler won with the zigzag. Cool.
Corey called them a newly formed duo, so I really hope they're not becoming a tag team.
I'm not on board.
Not on board with that, absolutely. And then the main event was the Bloodline versus Riddle and Street Profits. Again, showing how big of a star they've made Roman feel like. Just him tagging into this match felt like, whoa, Roman's tagged in. He's going to do a wrestle. Done an impeccable job of protecting Roman and making him feel like a big deal.
I will also say, though, that they're doing a great job of building him up as a babyface. His promo when he came out earlier, the whole building up to the acknowledge me, everyone cheers and goes, hey, he said the thing. And before,
we are the number ones.
We are the number ones. And then before he tags into the match, he's looking around at the crowd, and the crowd are cheering. We're like, yeah, we want to see Roman. It's like, that's a really good build up for a babyface. It's a shame he's not, but maybe something.
Yeah, I mean, guess they'll turn him after the Rock feud.
Maybe after the Lesnar feud. Do it sooner.
Yeah, Rock's got to be the babyface for their match.
Have him as a heel. He's a Hollywood Rock. Coming in and stealing Roman's spotlight.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Anyway, Roman won, pinning Riddle, which is a great way to set him up for his match with Rollins at the pay-per-view. And then afterwards, Rollins attacked Riddle. And the crowd was so into Riddle as a babyface, they sang Seth Rollins' theme song while he was attacking him.
Also, he did what I thought was a very cool stomp.
Great stomp onto the chairs.
He had the
stairs
there, and then he had the top half of the stairs inverted, leaning on it. So Riddle was going through the V gap, and then he stomped his head through the V gap onto the stairs underneath. It would look really cool.
Great ragdoll sell for Riddle. Yeah. Really, really liked it. A very cool visual to go off. And really, that was all the build they had for their match, aside from Riddle losing. But it's fine. It was simple, effective stuff. And that was the show. And
that's fine.
If you haven't watched the show and listened to that recap, you would think that was the same show we've had for the last few weeks. But I think most of us were expecting that. But it was actually better than last week's episode. I gave it 3 out of 5.
I would say it's probably been slightly better than what Raw has been lately, but not a drastic improvement. And I think that the stuff that was an improvement wasn't necessarily these are the Triple H changes that are making it better. It's just they just had some better stuff on this show.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But as I said last week, or with Sullivan last week, I was expecting that for this show anyway, because it's the go home show edition for SummerSlam. And really this was an okay go home show. I think it's mad that Brock wasn't on this episode.
Can't have Brock and Roman on the same show.
Yeah, no, but I think correct me if I'm wrong, Pete. But the only segment they have had together since this feud was announced was when Brock came back.
That is correct.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing they've built this feud on is the fact that they've had lots of matches over the last 7 years.
7 years in the making.
Such a good tagline.
I hate it.
But anyway, we'll have the poll going up in the live chat very, very soon. Let us know what you think. It's got to be out of 4 because YouTube won't let us do things out of 5 because they let us do that in the community tab. So why would they let us do that in the live chat? Makes perfect sense when you think about it, Google. Let's get into the rest of your Ultra Chats on this. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your thoughts heard. We will read out every single one of them above $5. Do you want to just check if we've got any patron shoutouts?
That's
first?
what I'm just checking right now. Yes, we do.
We do. Okay.
They're very special ones as well, Luke.
There are moderators.
It's our moderators.
Yeah! Right, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Because why don't you tell us why our moderators are great?
Our moderators are amazing because they help curate the live chat and they make the live chat a really nice place to be for our podcast stuff. And they also help us curate all these Ultra Chats, so we just have a nice, easy job of reading them out. They're lovely people. They're great. And we wouldn't be able to do these live streams like we do without them. They are really important.
Do you remember when we used to do live streams without moderators?
Yes.
Well, like, I was trying to moderate live streams while we were on the air.
Yeah, no,
Nightmare it was. So, like, thank you so much to our moderating team. We love each and every one of you. And I'm going to play now some Hall of Fame music for you because you are Hall of Fame worthy. Amanda.
Andy.
Chris P.
Chris R.
Devon.
Jalin.
John.
Les.
Paul.
Rob.
And Zach. But also, Mod Mother Jenna.
Yeah.
Mod Mother
Why doesn't
Jenna.
she shout out herself?
Well, it's because she's far too humble for the praise.
Yeah.
But Mod Mother is the linchpin of this WrestleTalk operation.
I was going to say, basically the entire company.
Yeah, like without Mod Mother, this whole place falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. We love each and every one of you. Right, now we'll get into the rest of your Ultra Chats that are $5 and above, none of your Canadian dollars. Thanks, Tempest. Kicking things off with Alexander. Said, it's true that Triple H has his own vision of pro wrestling, but there is a big danger of unjustly canonizing him as the savior of WWE as Vince's defecation. Culturally, WWE...
Deification.
What did I say?
Defecation.
You know. Culturally, WWE never really admits it's done anything wrong, and that is often the biggest misstep.
Apart from when they do admit when they're wrong, and they'd be like, you know what, guys, you're right, we're wrong, we're going to change all these things, but then they don't actually change anything.
Yeah, what a Baron
Classic.
Corbin.
Yeah.
Puckhead1994 said, I love MSG. The Who's Your Daddy chants have a deeper baseball reference in NYC. The chant was made infamous in 2004 between the Boston Red Sox pitcher Pedro Martinez and the New York Yankees. You should ask Tempest about the bad blood between those two clubs. I love the message, but I'm not going to.
No, me neither.
Because couldn't give a shit. Matt Hennessy said, honestly, Raw tonight gave me the impression that Austin Theory main experiment is done. I think a Moss and Corbin will drop down the card. Can honestly see a Moss being released. I do think we'll see some returns like Wyatt, Cross, and Gargano. I mean, Corbin was a big project of NXT. Triple H's NXT as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like
those early days.
He loves Baron Corbin. There is no way. Baron Corbin is going to be a mainstay. He's the next Miz. He's going to be here in 20 years' time, and everyone will be like, oh man, he's been here for so long. He's clearly good.
Yeah, the great 2016.
Oh man, do you think there'll be a period of time when, you know how, like, I bring this comparison up. The kids that grew up with Attack of the Clones who now think it's a good movie just because nostalgia tells them so.
Yeah.
Do you think there are going to be kids that grew up with GM Baron Corbin that will tell us as old men that he was actually good and you guys just remember it wrong?
Yeah. Because there's always people that look back on nostalgia and be like, no, you guys, it was actually good.
Oh man, like, can you imagine there's a world where people will think Baron Corbin, he's the Miz.
I almost, at one point in my life, I ran the risk because I almost fell into that trap of thinking that heel commentator Michael Cole was good because that's what I was at the time and that's what I was experiencing. And then when it came out later, everyone was like, I hated that period. And I was like, no, I liked it. And then I actually listened to something back. I was like, oh boy, that's not good. Cool. It's not aged well.
Blimey, this detracted from the product.
Yeah.
Sorry, just going to point out here. Someone just said, hey, if they made UK sports references, you'd probably like them. I think I would.
Nope.
And I'll be honest, like, I'm not going to Clash at the Castle, but there's going to be 100 of them on that show, and I'll be bored by all of those as well.
Yes.
It's cheap heat.
Yep.
Aaron Hanran has been a Memberg for 12 months in a row, said, first of all, I hope everyone at WrestleTalk is having a wonderful day. One question, is Bray Wyatt returning at SummerSlam? Also, Ray is a legend. I don't know about SummerSlam, but Bray, I think, is high on the list of people that will likely return to WWE.
I think so, yeah. I also think that that's a good move for him and the fans, because I don't think there's really any other place, any other wrestling company in the world that can do what Bray Wyatt needs the character to do.
He needs a cartoon show.
Right.
And that's what WWE is. And I think it's the perfect place for him to do his brand of what that is.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Hedburn has been a Memberg for 12 months in a row. Said, this may be my COVID talking, but I really like that Mysterios were watching the monster like normal people. So that is something good.
They were watching it like normal people, and then they'd be like, yeah, Ray, woo! And then they had a cake in front of them, and I was like, he's not with you. You know that, right?
Like, this is the depth that we've had to like drop to
Yeah.
for like how bad the WWE product is. Just like, guys, did you see how they were watching the TV? The product is saved.
Yeah.
We're all right
Saved.
again.
They were watching a TV like normal people.
Aaron Irons, I was at Raw last night. Logan Paul didn't get an entrance for that brawl. The lights went off and back on, and then he was in the ring. We booed him before the show went live, LOL.
Yeah.
And then booed him again when he came out.
Absolutely.
Riot DR, you know, Roman made a good point. Theory is not doing the Money in the Bank thing properly. It's like he's screaming, hey, I'm going to sneak attack you. This Saturday around 10:50 p.m. EST from your left side. Might hurt his chances of success.
It's true.
Riot DR again, Rey Mysterio was the coolest wrestler to a skinny 9-year-old obsessed with wrestling. Me. Now in my 30s, he's still one of the best. Also totally popped for the Conan and Dean Malenko shoutouts. Sad Damian Priest lost it in his hometown. Classic WWE. Didn't even think of that.
Nope.
Ryan has been a Memberg for 2 months in a row. Said, was it just me? Were they bullying Theory last night? Maybe to turn him face like early Randy Orton.
Totally.
That would be a real Triple H thing to do, to look at a guy like, you know, even back in the day, Randy Orton was a real easy, smug heel that's easy to dislike. To look at a guy like, there's a future babyface right here.
Yeah.
Harriet Manga Girl said, afternoon, guys. Hope you're okay. If they were to turn Logan Paul heel, who would be the best wrestler to put against him in the future? Also, I believe Triple H's era will be a slow burn for the future, and I'm looking forward to it. That's a great outlook on things.
Yeah. The original, the rebranded NXT from 2012 was a slow burner. It took time to build up into the great thing. So yeah, I'd expect it to take a while.
If they turn Logan Paul heel, who's the best wrestler to put him up against? Pat McAfee.
AJ Styles, he's good.
AJ could carry him, absolutely.
Yeah.
He could, yeah. But yeah, like, you know, Pat won at WrestleMania. Logan won at WrestleMania. Pat's going to win at SummerSlam. Logan's going to win at SummerSlam. The big celebrity versus celebrity match for WrestleMania next year.
No.
Ten Ruzza, the first time in a long time I've watched Raw live here at 10 a.m. Tuesday in Melbourne, and my God, 3 hours drags. It felt so long. I can see there will be a failed cash-in at SummerSlam just to get it off Theory and put it on the line for against someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they put it on the line against someone else. I could see that as well. Like, I think it's just because he got beaten so much. I was like, I think the dude's winning this weekend. But there is also every chance that they just get the briefcase off him. In which case, that would be the third year in a row. No, second year in a row they've done that, right? Because
yeah, sure.
Who won it last year? Oh, Big E.
Oh, of course it was.
Beige.
Yeah.
So
Beige.
it'd be the second time in 3 years then, because Otis had put it on the line and lost it to someone else.
Yes.
Because they put it on a guy, then didn't actually want to put it on the guy.
The Miz?
It was the Miz, because the Miz then cashed it in.
And then Tucker turned heel.
Yeah.
And was
did.
never referenced again.
Yeah. Karim says, after constant verbal abuse from Roman, I like that Theory stood up for himself. Gives his character an extra layer rather than a cardboard heel. Also, Pete, Triple H on camera saying, I'm the head of creative is very, very bad.
I disagree. I think because the news is so prevalent and so mainstream with Vince McMahon retiring, like Stephanie McMahon coming out and being like, Vince McMahon has retired. Thank you, Vince, for doing all the chants.
But you will do it when I tell you to do the chant.
Of course, yeah, don't do it yet, guys. Like, if you're going to do that, I don't think it's crazy to have a follow-up promo to that of Triple H being like, hey, Vince is gone. I'm here now.
You don't have to use the term head of creative.
No, you don't have to say that, but you can just say, like, hey, guys, I'm running things now.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. You know, whatever.
Thomas Shelvin said, hey, Luke and Pete, I can't believe you missed Heyman's savage line at the beginning of the show. We have a sound guy that must be from New Jersey or something. We want to write your name down. You're the next one out the door. I love Heyman so much. I think I did say that. I said, they made a couple of references to Vince being gone.
Yeah.
I'll hot tag across to you.
Sure. Nina Gassner said, I'm confused now. I thought the ESPYs were voted by fans. Did I miss something there?
No, I think they are. All the other categories are. But WWE choose which ones.
Do they really?
I'm pretty sure they get to choose which one wins.
Even if it's voted on by fans, it's still the WWE moment of the year.
The WWE pay for to get onto ESPYs.
Yeah, which is still bad.
Yeah.
It's still a Slammy award.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Nina Gassner again said, forgot to add this to my previous Ultra Chat because Pete mentioned it earlier. Is there anyone who has the capability to see Theory as a face even when he does face stuff? The guy has so much F-boy energy. He genuinely irritates me by breathing. He can play a goofy, funny person. We saw it when he was in The Way. Mm-hmm. He was like a goofy heel to start with, but very endearing in like his goofiness. So I think if they wanted to do that sort of character, if he was paired with like a straight man who we could bounce off, that could be an endearing pairing eventually. Who is next? Apparently this name translates to Lu Zihao. Apologies if I butchered that one. Mm-hmm. Still sad about the extras being dropped. Those banters are what made you guys make you guys feel like friends rather than YouTubers for me. We're just re-listening to the one where Luke was still not a DAD and Ollie was reading his Pornhub poem last week and realized how time has passed.
Wow. I mean, I'll be honest, like, if you want to drop in the chat which episode that is, because we get asked that a lot, which episode, because no one remembers what episode it was.
No.
So if you want to drop that in the chat, people can go back and check that out, because it was hilarious.
Also, for our archives, if you could let us know, that'd be nice.
Really good, because
so we could get hold of it too.
You can clip it out.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much. We're gutted as well. They had, but like, you know, we're rebranding them. We're going to be doing it in a different way. So they're not going completely. They're just becoming a different thing. We've rebadged it, you fool.
Exactly.
To quote Alan Partridge.
Yes. Same person again said, anyway, still hyped for what comes next for you guys, and we'll still be supporting WrestleTalk and Jam that effing jam. Love y'all. Thank you so much. The Adnap2 said, Luke, did you know that Jarrett's original theme lyrics were, he ain't dead, he ain't The Rock, but then they changed it to, is Jeff. You can hear the word Jeff is clearly different audio.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's deep TNA lore, and I love that you brought this up on this show. But yeah, like, it's a messy old song, but I love it for it.
J.O. Fella's been a member for 5 months in a row. And said, thank you guys for allowing me to be part of the WrestleTalk team. Thank you. Charles Berg said, just want to remind y'all that CM Punk debut was less than a year ago. Think of how much has happened since. Also, I've got some names for the Friday show, WrestleTalk Podcast, the Friday one, Friday Grap Rap, 3 Men and a Wrestle, Talking Feds.
I like 3 Men and a Wrestle.
Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
I think it's going to be called the WrestleTalk Podcast. So,
yeah,
there you go. Ten Rosa said, I'll be excited if and when we get fresh sets, show themes, wrestler themes, logos, camera direction. Hope this really is a change. Would love Triple H to do the address like Vince at the start of the Attitude Era.
Not bad. I quite like that, actually. You know, that was Vince McMahon pressing the reset button, being like,
absolutely,
guys, this is what's happening now. Like, as I said at the top of this show, they have not been... they've not been afraid. They've not been strangers to doing that in the past. Yeah. So maybe they're just waiting, like, let's just get the SummerSlam out of the way, then we'll do it. Mm-hmm. But they've done it in the middle of pay-per-view builds before.
Yeah. Matty Poncho said, I will not be tuning into Raw until they officially turn their act around. Took me a long time to switch to AEW, but I was so sick and tired of WWE insulting my intelligence with their product and shows, as soon as Punk, Danielson, and Cole debuted with AEW. Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think that is all of them.
I think that's everything. Yes.
And as a correction on my part, because someone has pointed out in the comment, apparently the WWE ESPYs are also voted on by fans.
There you go.
There you go. So the more you know. But WWE still pay for them to be into them because they're not a real thing.
No.
And that's still cringy, and I still don't. It still makes me think, like, I feel sorry for them.
It's a Slammy Award.
It's a Slammy Award. Fans vote for Slammy Awards as well, guys. Let's not forget. But that is all we've got time for on this edition of the WrestleTalk Podcast. Yeah, let's do a poll, shall we? Shall we have a look at the poll results about what you thought of the show? 6% said it was a 1 out of 4 show. 9% said it was a 4 out of 4 show. 38% said 2 out of 4. 46% said 3 out of 4.
That sounds about right.
That is on the higher level than we usually get. So I think this feels like optimistic voting.
I think this is a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I think that's where this is at.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
Bang average episode of Raw. could have been something real big, but I think let's wait till next week, which ironically is the week I'm not going to be around for. So
Yes.
I've had to review all the rubbish shows, but next week, maybe it'll be something big. But that is all we've got time for on this edition of the podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do press the thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already. We are trying to get towards 70k, so please help us get there. And tune in tomorrow for the final NXT review with Sat Iniangi and SP3. We love our Mocha 2.0 boys. So it's the last NXT review here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. So go and show them some love for the final episode. But until then, I have been Nico and DAD. This has been Chopper Pete Quinnell. And that was Wrestling Jam That Jam.